Games look too good. When you look at the current landscape of games, we've achieved things that could have never been dreamed of. Environments full of bright and vibrant colors, characters so detailed you can point out individual hair follicles. It is too much. There's been an almost over-reliance as well as an unrealistic expectation for how a game should look, as if this one aspect defines the quality of a game. When did this start though? Well, I'm sure as you can imagine, but people have been hyper-fixated on graphics for a long time. This is a bit. It can either be a 0 or a 1, meaning it has two possible states. This is 2 bits, 4, and 8. This is what defined the early generation of gaming. 8-bit computing had a bunch of limitations on what they could do in terms of sprites and models, but by the end of the generation, they had found unique ways to circumvent these and create some really impressive stuff.
Some of you believe your system is the most advanced in the universe. Let's review the numbers. Sega Genesis is 16 bits. 3DO is 32 bits. The Atari Jaguar is 64 bits.
16-bit Super Nintendo. 32.
6 times more powerful than 3DO.
32-bit processor.
40 times more than Super NES.
Even as early as the second generation of consoles, bits and graphics were the biggest selling point. Games looked great, there was no doubt. The jump in power was extremely noticeable for anyone watching. Some Super Nintendo games had special chips in them that allowed for 3D models. The Genesis had adapters and attachments to try to get the absolute most out of games like NHL 94. Everyone's first leap into 3D was pretty similar to how the NES era of games looked. Although it was impressive, the later half of games during this generation was able to abuse as many tricks and utilize upgrades that drastically improved on what came out before it. This was the most impressive jump in hardware between generations probably as we've known it. It's still mind-blowing that Mario went from this to this. Resident Evil games started to look like this. And all of the new things we were able to achieve on these systems. These had some of the best looking cutscenes into some of the roughest looking gameplay ever. Sonic Unleashed opens up with this crazy cinematic cutscene that even today looks incredible into this.
Uh-oh, did I fall on him?
This isn't true for everything we saw obviously, but more often than not we saw incredible cutscenes into gameplay that just couldn't compare to it. Except for Nintendo, they kinda started doing their own thing here. We saw more remasters emerge than ever before during this generation. Dark Souls Remastered, Uncharted Remastered, Crysis Remastered, Spyro Remastered, Need for Speed Remastered, The Last of Us, barely over a year after coming out, remastered. Some of these remasters are the worst way to enjoy these games. Sure, you made things HD, but can we really honestly say that this looks better than this? Every major game that released for either PS5 or Xbox you could play on a previous generation of console or PC. But it can't be understated how great these games look on the next generation. It truly pushes all of these new console upgrades to its absolute fullest potential, and the final product is just... These are the PS4 versions. Side by side, sure, sometimes you can tell a noticeable difference, but who are we kidding here? Do we really care that much about how a barrel looks that's going to impact how we view the final product? Game devs have been able to create amazing things these past 10 years, but it's also taking them way longer to create these things. From the release of Uncharted 1 to the release of Uncharted 3, 4 years. From the release of God of War to the release of Ragnarok, 4 years. Development times increase alongside hardware if you want things to look next gen. I get that. But do we really need to see every blackhead in Kratos' face? Some of these games don't really have any look to them other than looking really good. Concord had one of the best looking cinematic trailers of the year, and then the gameplay is shown and it looks like everything else in the genre. This is at no fault to the developers. They work incredibly hard to create things that they do, but I can't help but feel things have gone in the wrong direction for too long. And after watching trailer after trailer for great looking games with just nothing else remarkable to say about them, I'm jaded. Some of the best games this year are indie titles that don't look cutting edge compared to their AAA counterparts, but the ideas and mechanics that they introduced blow them out of the water and took a fraction of the people and about half the time to do it. Maybe this will change one day, but I doubt it. So the moral of the story, support indie devs and these games, they're very good.